What a disaster for Mexico's very own Sergio Perez. Checo showed his home crowd a horrendous time as he failed to finish the Mexico Grand Prix. Yet despite this, Red Bull team principal Christian Horner still has his back, even as a top contender for a potential replacement, Daniel Ricciardo, put in an impressive performance. Sergio Perez's season has taken a turbulent turn, with widespread speculation suggesting that Red Bull might consider looking for a new partner for Max Verstappen instead of allowing Perez to complete the final year of his contract next season. The Mexican Grand Prix seemed like the ideal occasion to shift the tide in his favor, but unfortunately, it didn't pan out as expected. After being outperformed by Ricciardo in the AlphaTauri, Perez was determined to make up for any qualifying frustrations by launching a bid for the lead as he approached Turn 1 during the Mexican GP. Regrettably, this endeavor ended in a race-ending collision with Ferrari's Charles Leclerc. As Verstappen continued to secure yet another commanding victory, the pressure on Perez escalated even further. Horner discussed the opposing performances of the Red Bull duo with Sky F1. He said, very contrasting. Another amazing race by Max today, total and utter dominance. But for Checo, just absolutely gutting home race. And he had a rocket ship launch and had so much momentum going into that first corner. You can't blame him for going for it to try and take the lead at his own race. It was implied to Horner that Perez has been somewhat consistent in making audacious moves, with instances in Singapore and Japan also leading to collisions. One question about the need for discussions with Perez on this matter, Horner emphasized the importance of providing support to help the experienced F1 driver regain his form, saying, "Look, he's got 13 years of experience in Formula 1, and I think when you're going through a difficult moment, it's important to support him. And I think that he was having a great weekend up until that point, and he was going for the lead at his home race in Mexico City, with a crowd that it's insane the amount of support behind him, and 3-1 doesn't go, and unfortunately, he was just on the wrong side of it." If there was ever a weekend when Perez could have used a break from Ricciardo's stellar performance, it was certainly during the Mexican Grand Prix. Unfortunately for Perez, luck was not on his side in this aspect either. Despite an impressive P4 qualification in only his second race back from injury, Ricciardo managed to convert it into a P7 finish, coming just shy of P6 as he closely pursued George Russell of Mercedes in the closing laps. Horner praised Ricciardo's performance, yet stressed that Red Bull's current objective is to rebuild Perez's confidence. Horner said, "You couldn't fail to be impressed by Daniel this weekend. His qualifying was outstanding yesterday, and he showed his maturity and experience and pace in the race. I think that fighting a Mercedes and an AlphaTauri for their best result of the year, it was a great performance, and had it not been for the red flag, he might have actually finished even further up. So he can take a lot of confidence, coming back from injury. He's had a rough time over the last couple of months having to sit on the sidelines, but that's the Daniel that we're used to seeing. As we've seen in sport, confidence is such a thing, and his confidence is coming up. Checo, we just need him to have a confidence-boosting result, and he could have had it today, but it wasn't to be." In an alarming turn of events, Perez watched his comfortable lead over Lewis Hamilton in the second position of the Drivers' Championship shrink to just 20 points. This was a result of Hamilton securing a second-place finish and also registering the fastest lap in the Mexican Grand Prix. The 7-time world champion, a stone's throw away from second in the title race, has something to say about Checo's situation. He has pointed the finger at a specific spokesperson within Red Bull, implying that this unidentified individual is making Perez's life more challenging with their negative comments. While Perez commenced the season as a strong title contender, he found himself just 6 points adrift of Max Verstappen after clinching his second victory of the season in Azerbaijan, but his form took a downturn just 2 races later. Following his qualifying crash in Monaco, Perez admitted to losing confidence in his RB19. It took him until the Hungarian Grand Prix to break back into the top 10 shootout, where he managed only a P9 finish. By that point, the championship was all but decided, as Verstappen was in the midst of a 10-race winning streak, while Perez had to reflect on his last race victory, which dated back to Azerbaijan. As it stands, That victory in Azerbaijan remains Perez's most recent win of the season, leaving the Mexican driver with just 2 victories. In contrast, Verstappen has equaled his 2022 record of 15 wins, secured the driver's title, and accumulated enough points to almost single-handedly secure the constructor's title for Red Bull. Meanwhile, Perez finds himself in a precarious position, battling for his future in Formula One. There is ongoing speculation that Red Bull may, at the very least, consider allowing him to explore other opportunities if he can secure second place in the standings ahead of Hamilton. The British driver empathizes with his rival's predicament, saying, "I've never been in the exact position that Checo is in, but as a driver, I understand the psychological and mental pressures weigh so heavily on you. It's hard to explain and put into words. I think he's got amazing support around him. I think he has carried himself very well." But the support Hamilton refers to appears to be primarily from Perez's family, and perhaps even the psychologist he was consulting earlier in the season, rather than from Red Bull, or at least not from everyone within the Red Bull team. He added that, "I don't think his team has been really massively supportive for him. I wouldn't say the team, because there are a lot of people within a team, but one particular spokesperson has not been really great in helping psychologically. If I heard Toto talking negatively about me on the weekends, it would be really quite tough, so it's a difficult environment for him, but I think he's dealt with it to the best of his ability." Hamilton went on to commend Perez's performance during the early part of the season, believing that in those races, the 33-year-old showcased his true potential in Formula One. He expressed his support for Perez's comeback, ending the interview by saying, "I was so excited for him at the beginning of the year, because he was driving very well. At one point, I thought he was in the lead in the championship, and thought, shoot, we finally got the best of Checo, but it is a very long year. It's a really long season. It's the most demanding sport that there is, but the best thing about Checo is that he just gets back up. He keeps trying. It doesn't take a genius to figure out that the non-supportive Red Bull spokesperson Hamilton is referring to is none other than Helmut Marko, and after Daniel Ricciardo's amazing race, the Austrian has never been more sure. Marko has chosen Ricciardo as a promising prospect for the future, following the exceptional performance of the Honey Badger during the Mexico Grand Prix. In only his second race weekend back on the grid after recovering from a hand injury, Ricciardo's showing was commendable, especially after the home crowd's hero fell short yet again. Marko had nothing but love for the Australian driver, not even trying to be subtle while talking about him over the weekend. He said, "Incredible, he really got everything out of it. Great comeback after his hand injury, and a good recommendation for the future." And as for Ricciardo, he had this to say about his impressive return to form. "We started the weekend with a little bit of a different setup, and it was something I felt comfortable with. I think there was definitely a positive chip on my shoulder. I know I haven't done much this year race-wise, but I feel a lot like my old self, and I feel like, yeah, I can do well. A lot of things that were there, and it kind of brought out a lot of confidence." What do you think? Did Daniel Ricciardo just drive the final nail in the coffin for Sergio Perez's Red Bull career? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell for the hottest F1 news.